course, take this opportunity to say thank you for the huge success of the kickoff of our Catch Up Fridays last January 12. So please extend that gratitude to our teachers and to everyone who was involved in the kickoff of Catch Up Fridays. So let me continue. The Department of Education. So may I request to please share my screen? All right. So the Department of Education is steadfast in its commitment to improving the quality of basic education. It is for this reason that it continues to introduce initiatives to improve learning outcomes. Well, numbers never lie. We all know that. The results of our ILSAs, the PISA, the TIMSS, the CPLM, and even our very own national assessments tell us that our learners are not performing well. It's a painful truth that all of us need to face and do something about it. And so with the World Bank study in 2021, which reported that more than 90% of Filipino learners aged 10 years old struggled to comprehend age-appropriate texts. As the key officials of the Department of Education, so you and I are key officials of the Department of Education, it's not just a plain responsibility, but I call it a moral responsibility to find ways to address the challenges of basic education. Hence, the Matatag Agenda and the National Learning Recovery Program, of which Catch Up Fridays is one of the transformative initiatives to recover from that of learning loss. So, we now have Catch Up Fridays in our midst. And so, next slide, please. Why is there a need for us for Catch-Up Fridays? Why is there a need for Catch-Up Fridays? As I have mentioned in my first statement a while back, it's really very essential for us to be able to respond to the low proficiency levels, to the poor performance of our learners in reading. And we're also wanting to respond to the urgent need to intensify values, health, and peace education. All this support the goal outlined in the Matatag Education Agenda, Bansang Makabata, Batang Makabansa, and so with the 8-point socioeconomic agenda of the present administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Let's take a look at the purpose of Catch-Up Fridays. Let's have the next slide. Okay. So, Catch-Up Fridays is implemented to help address learning gaps. Let's try to be emphatic on that. To reinforce foundational, social, and relevant skills necessary to successfully implement the basic education curriculum. There's a review of the curriculum, and it was found out that our learners did not even master prerequisite competencies, did not even master foundational skills. And that's the very reason why we have to address this concern. The Catch-Up Friday actually aligns with the National Learning Recovery Program. And you will note that half of the Friday is going to be dedicated to the National Reading Program, and the other half is going to be dedicated for values, health, and peace education. But you will note that we are actually including the homeroom guidance program. So, next slide. When will Catch-Up Fridays be implemented? We all know that we started the implementation. We had its kickoff last January 12, and this Catch-Up Fridays is implemented across elementary and secondary schools, including our community learning centers nationwide. So all schools, walang hindi eskwelahan na hindi mag-implement ng Catch-up Fridays. When will Catch-up Fridays be implemented? Itutuloy ko po yung sagot doon because you will note that in the memorandum, you did not only say Catch-up Friday is going to be implemented starting in January 12, but we made it sure that our teachers will have ample time to prepare for the implementation of Catch-up Fridays. And that's the very reason why that we just kick off Catch-up Fridays in January 12 with just pure deer. And so January 12 was pure deer day. However, on this Friday, that's January 19, it's going to be a combination of deer and that of orientation of our teachers. As very well stated in the memorandum, the first thing that our school heads need to do is to identify which among our teachers should be facilitating the deer and who should be attending the orientation. In fact, we suggested that half of the teachers are going to facilitate the the deer, the reading component of the Catch-up Friday, and that's the deer, while the half of our teachers will attend the training. And that's the very reason why we're conducting this training for you, my dear CLMD chiefs, CID chief, education program supervisors, public schools district supervisors, because we expect you to be orienting also our schools, particularly the school heads, and all the teachers. So kayo po ang inasahan namin na magiging responsible in the orientation of our schools. And that should happen before the 19th. Kaya talagang ang gagawin natin, immediately after this, you really have to plan for your own orientation. Most likely today 16, you only have 17 and 18 you can have 17 and 18 as a schedule for your orientation, because 19 the teachers will still be in school, because the learners will still be in school. You will be conducting the orientation, and most likely the orientation that you're going to be conducting, I'm just suggesting this, I'm not saying it's this going to happen, that we leave it to you to strategize on the 19th, because you'll be orienting some of the teachers. Most likely the teachers you will be orienting on the 19th will be the very people who will help you be orienting the other teachers on the 26th. On the 26th, or should I say 26 actually falls during the mid-year break. So you can dedicate the 26th for the orientation of teachers and school heads on the implementation of Catch-up Fridays. I know very well that you have planned ahead of time how you're going to go about mid-year, how you're going to go about your inset already. However, because of the coming in of Catch-up Fridays, medyo late ng konti yung issuance ng memorandum natin. Kinakailangan you have to do some revisions on whatever planned activities you have for January 26 to include or to devote January 26 for the orientation of the implementation of Catch-up Fridays. So I hope I made that clear. So please dedicate January 26 for the orientation of our schools on Catch-up Fridays, because as much as possible, we want all our teachers to be oriented before we're going to have its full implementation this in February, right? Next slide, please. Other than the deer that's going to happen, well, it happened in January 12, January 19, and January 26. Other than the deer on the orientation, We are also expecting you, our dear field implementers, and that includes our teachers, to be sending us feedback on the guidelines of Catch-Up Fridays. So I provided anyway in the memorandum the email ad of this office, of this bureau, where you can send us your feedback. We're really very much interested to hear from you because we're also wanting to, as much as possible, get to improve even how Catch-Up Fridays is going to be implemented, right? And then how will Catch-Up Fridays be structured? So all Fridays will be designated as Catch-Up Fridays. And I have mentioned earlier that the first half of the day, the first half of the Friday, is going to be devoted to the National Reading Program. While the second half of the Friday is going to be devoted to values, health education, and peace education. And please remember that homeroom guidance is also included as part of the second half of the Friday. Please take note that we did not make use of the morning session or the afternoon session in consideration of the shifting of classes. So, bahala na po kayong mag-determine kung ano po yung half of the day po ninyo kasi hindi naman, for example, for grade 1, hindi naman talaga um, morning, afternoon yan. So, it may not necessarily, for example, should learners stay in school for example lang for 4 hours, hindi naman sinasabi na yung 2 hours nasa morning, 2 hours nasa afternoon. So you really have to count. And our schools are given the flexibility to do that schedule, right? And then, how will the time allotment for each learning area be used? This is one thing that you really have to remember and take note. The time allotment for each learning area on a Friday shall be used to enhance learners' knowledge, skills, and appreciation of reading, values, health, peace education, and so with the homeroom guidance program. So in a while, I'm going to show you a sample of a class program. Okay, in the next slide, um, it talks about who's going to facilitate Catch-Up Fridays. In fact, we saw this on Facebook. Sino mag-facilitate ng Catch-Up Friday? Si advisor lang ba? Sino nga ba? Sa reading, si English teacher lang ba? Si Filipino teacher lang ba? So this is the answer. Catch-Up Fridays will be facilitated by the same teacher or teachers whose classes are scheduled on a Friday. So I'm going to show you afterwards a sample class program. And you will note that it's the integrative approach to teaching is actually suggested to be used by our teachers. So the assigned teacher will have to integrate the themes and sub-themes for values, health education, or peace education into their assigned learning area. And as mentioned here, this approach fosters a cohesive and interconnected learning experience, ensuring that important themes are woven into the different subject matter. However, if you think that integrative approach cannot happen, huwag niyo pong pipilitin. But the default should be the integrative approach, all right? So that our content, for example, in mathematics, in science, can be used as a springboard to develop the reading skills of our learners. Anyway, for the integration and for the discussion on how to go about this, our specialists will have time with you, and it's going to be time for you also to be asking a lot of questions, particularly integration, the integrative approach, and how our teachers should be facilitating Catch-Up Fridays. So this is an example of a class program for grade 1 learners in the current K-12 curriculum with Catch-Up Fridays for single shifts. Yesterday, I failed to emphasize that it's actually that this sample is actually for grade 1. Kaya nag-iisip sila, okay, yun lang pala ang oras. Hindi nila binasa na pang grade 1 ito. So normal po na pag grade 1, 4 hours and 40 minutes lang po na mag-stay sa school. For the higher grades, mas madami yung oras that they have to stay in school. So ino-note niyo po 'yan. Kasi kanina sa kahapon, parang may mga questions na, ano nang gagawin nila pagkatapos? Kasi 4 hours lang naman pala ang nakita nila. So, please take note of this, that this sample class program is for grade 1. So, meaning na yung first half of the Friday, ano yung mga learning areas na covered? ESP, Filipino, English, and that of mathematics. And we said that for the first half, it's dedicated for the National Reading Program. It will mean, therefore, na si ESP teacher, Filipino teacher, English teacher, and mathematics teacher will facilitate the National Reading Program. While Aralin Panlipunan teacher, the MAPE teacher of that grade 1 class, pero grade 1 ito, lahat gagawin niya, no? So, let's assume na ito naman ay grade 4 to 6 or 7 to 12, ang mangyayari nito is sa Aralin Panlipunan teacher, si MAPE teacher, sila ang mag-handle ng klase ng values education, ng health education, or peace education. For example, Aralin Panlipunan teacher, siya ang naichamba dito, so kinakailangan they have to determine how much time should be allotted to MAPE, or to values education, how much time should be allotted to health, peace education, and homeroom guidance, and then i-determine kung si MAPE ba, naichamba ba na time siya ni values education. Ganun po yung ating setup dito. But our education program or our specialist will share you more information about this. Okay? Let's have the next one. Next slide. Will catch-up Fridays be graded? So, please take note of this. Catch-up Fridays will not be graded. Alright? It's not a subject. So, hindi kailangan na bibigyan natin ang mga bata ng grado. And why is it not graded? Because our primary objective is to reinforce learning. Take note, we mentioned about recovering from learning loss. So yun po yung pinaka-purpose po natin. And then, how will the teachers monitor individual progress on Catch-Up Fridays? So the learner's progress will actually be monitored through reflection journals, where our learners are going to articulate their thoughts in writing, through stories, journals, personal essays, and other creative expressions that reflect their unique experiences. You know, when I visited schools last January 12 during the kickoff, I was so amazed listening to learners share the insights they gained, the lessons learned from every story that they read. Parang hindi ko inasahan na yung grade 1 pupil in so short a time in just wala pang mga 2 oras, kaya nang i-retell yung story na kanyang binasa, and the learners the learners shared the story. I made them listen also to this learner and ask them what they learned from that story. They just listened to. Parang it's so amazing na ang mga grade 1 ito mga grade 1 pupils natin were able to do it. So much more for our learners in higher grades. All we need to do is just to be very quick to respond kung ano yung mga kailangan nilang support sa atin. So we expect that our learners will have a collection of their journals, will have a collection of whatever essays, personal essays, or stories. Baka out from the story na binasa nila, they can have their own story. They can have they can put them together, put it in a portfolio, And that portfolio is going to tell a story about how our learners have progressed, particularly in the reading performance, in peace education, in health education, in values education, and that of course, um, the focus of homeroom guidance program. Okay? And then how will values, health, and peace education be integrated into Catch-Up Fridays? In the memorandum, we provided you actually a sample. So the integrative approach will be employed, but we are not saying that it's just integrative every day. If the integrative approach cannot happen, then you can make use of other strategies. In the integrative approach, you're going to use content from various learning areas in developing the reading skills, as I've mentioned earlier, the content in math, content in science, content, for example, in health, can even be used to develop the reading skills of our learners, and others may be used to foster an understanding of values, health, and peace-related concepts. We have provided you the list of monthly themes and sub-themes. They're attached as enclosure in the memorandum. And so there's really a need for you to be emphatic then, my dear CLMD chiefs, CID chiefs especially, and our education program supervisors, that our teachers must be provided copies of this, a copy of this memorandum and the enclosures. Kasi kung wala silang enclosure, ano naman, paano naman nila saan naman nila hagilapin itong mga monthly teams and sub-teams that we're talking about here. And so, if there's any reading material that we have to first read for Catch-Up Fridays is DepEd Order number 001 series of 2024. So dapat lahat tayo ay nabasa na at naintindihan na itong DepEd Memorandum number 001 2024, and it's going to be the same requirement that we have to ask of our school heads and that of our teachers, because without them being able to read and understand the provisions provided here in DepEd Order number 001 2024, wala pong i-implement na Catch-Up Fridays. Well, it was so understandable when I asked some school heads actually during our orientation, during my visits, kasi ang tanong ko sa kanila, nabasa nyo na ba? And Toto, from page 1 to the last page, medyo silensyo sila, which means wala sila sigurong time to read and Toto. Actually, it's not just one-time reading. We have to read and reread in order for us to be able to understand how this Catch-Up Fridays is going to be implemented. And so I invite you to please make the DepEd Order number 1001 to be the first reading material for our school heads and that of our teachers. Okay? What about the time allotment for NRP? How is it going to be utilized? The time allotment for the NRP is going to be an opportunity to give for learners for the reading intervention and reading enhancement through developmentally appropriate reading materials. Developmentally appropriate and as much as possible interesting reading materials for our learners. In the DepEd memorandum, there's a suggested strategy on how to go about facilitating reading for Catch-Up Fridays, and the team of AIEC will certainly be will provide you a more comprehensive discussion on how to implement NRP during the Catch-Up Fridays. All right? And the next slide, what strategies will be employed during the Catch-Up Fridays? These are just a few of the strategies. For example, we started already with the Drop Everything and Read. You have readathon, you have an expert-led fora, and we are not stopping you actually, or should I say, we are even suggesting that you can invite experts, you can invite resource persons to talk about health, to talk about peace education in your respective schools, but in the schools. But of course, you have to always keep in mind the protocols. Kasi baka sasabihin nyo, oh, sinabi naman ni Director Leila na pwede namang mag-invite pagkatapos peace education yan. Alam nyo naman na may mga yes or no pagdating sa peace education, and as to who should be the people coming in our office or in the schools. So may mga protocols yan. Parang, for example, merong involvement ng our officials from AFP, for example, from PNP, for example. May mga protocols yan na bawal na may dala-dala sila, dapat sila uniforme para ang mga bata. So there's really a need to be looking at all these protocols. Basta importante is where there's a need for us and for you, for our schools to be inviting experts, mag-invite tayo. For example, for health, we can invite our health people, health professionals to speak before our learners. Okay? Next slide. Okay, how will teachers prepare for Catch-Up Fridays? I'd like to emphasize that we are conducting this orientation with you, CLMD chiefs, CID chiefs, education program supervisors, and public schools district supervisors, because we expect you to be conducting the orientation yourselves in the schools. And because all of you are oriented, kaya CLMD chiefs and CID chiefs, sana dinalaan nyo lahat ang mga education program supervisors natin. Because aside from orienting our teachers, our school heads on Catch-Up Fridays, we are also expecting them to be providing technical assistance to our teachers. That's why they should also be engaged in the collaborative expertise sessions through learning action cells, and we expect them to be the experts to provide technical assistance to our teachers. Yung mga iba, ang inaasahan natin dito during the during the time of when our specialists will be discussing to you the different strategies, there's a need for you, my dear education program supervisors in the different learning areas, to be engaged. Because if there's anyone who's going to provide leadership in coming up with lessons using integration, kayo po ang tutulong sa ating mga teachers. You can go beyond provision of technical assistance. You can come together and come up with sample integration lessons para may ready material tayo sa mga teachers pa natin. So sana as we start implementing Catch-Up Fridays, you will understand that our teachers will be needing a lot of support. So kayo po, national regional offices, kayo po na nasa division offices, and the district supervisors, kayo po ang inaasahan namin who will be providing that. But I'll guarantee you that should you be needing technical assistance also from the central office, particularly from the Bureau of Learning Delivery, and I can also commit the Bureau of Curriculum Development, okay ba sa inyo, that anytime you need our expertise, then we'll always be ever willing to be of help. Okay, so there's going to be collaborative expertise sessions through learning action cells, the way we did with the National Learning Camp, and you can have other professional learning activities to for our teachers, the model teachers, our master teachers, our education program supervisors can actually share their own practices, help them prepare their materials to ensure a successful implementation of the Catch-Up Fridays. So dito po talaga, we need to collaborate, we need to help each other, because that's the only way we can ensure that we'll be able to effectively and successfully implement Catch-Up Fridays. Okay, so inaasahan po natin yung leadership po nito ng ating CLMD chiefs and that of the CID. the chiefs. So ulitin ko po, for us to be able to all the more help them, please dedicate, you have to revisit the topics that you included for January 2026. Make some revisions kasi alam ko na may mga divisions tayo na or regions na nagbigay ng mga suggested topics. So please ensure that Catch Up Fridays is going to be one, at sana i-dedicate nyo po yung January 26 for Catch Up Fridays, not just to do this orientation na ginagawa natin ngayon, pero pwede na silang, they come together and think about how they do integration. They can come up with sample materials. They can already start working on that session guide for the first full implementation of Catch Up Fridays in February. So please do that. Okay? And then, will stakeholders be engaged to support Catch Up Fridays? Yes, we highly encourage that you have to forge and strengthen stakeholders' engagement. You really have to partner with our stakeholders in order for us to be able to gather support and ensure sustainability of Catch Up Fridays. So what do we expect from our stakeholders? We actually expect them to share their 3 Ts. So ano yung 3 Ts natin na sinasabi natin? Their time, their talents, and the treasures. I mentioned earlier that we can invite people to serve as resource persons, yung mga expert-led fora natin. So pwede natin silang invite, and that's their talent and their time. We need their valued time to be shared to us. And because in Catch Up Fridays, we need a lot of reading materials, developmentally appropriate reading materials, interesting reading materials for silent reading. We can appeal to our stakeholders to share whatever available reading materials they have that are appropriate. They can already donate. They can donate. We can have book donation. We can have book banking, because there's a need for us to flood our learners with a lot of interesting and developmentally appropriate reading materials. So wag niyong kakalimutan, especially for the early grades, do not just you have to consider also exposing materials using the language that our learners understand and language that they know. Okay, so wag niyo pong kakalimutan yan. And I know that we've got a number of reading materials available. So who shall primarily be responsible in supervising the implementation of Catch Up Fridays? We're giving actually the CLMD and the CID to ensure compliance of schools in its implementation, with, of course, the school heads as responsible for supervising the implementation of Catch Up Fridays in his or her respective school. Pero hindi dapat bibitaw si CLMD at si CID to be providing technical assistance. So you have to emphasize in the orientation that it's the school head who is primarily responsible for the supervision of the implementation of Catch Up Fridays every Friday. Okay? Next slide. Ito na. We are also expecting the regional offices, because we also want to hear from you. We want to get feedback from you. We want to know also what happened in the implementation of the Catch Up Fridays. So we're expecting our regional offices to be submitting to us reports, quarterly reports, particularly on how the Catch Up Friday was implemented in their respective regions. And this is going to be submitted to the central office, particularly to the curriculum and teaching strand, through the Bureau of Learning Delivery for assessment and evaluation of the program. Of course, we're always wanting to hear from you, because we're also wanting to improve, to get back to the memorandum, to the guidelines, and find out what needs to be improve for a better implementation of Catch-Up Fridays. Okay, I think that's the last one. Should you have any inquiries or concerns, I'm sharing you the email ad of this office. So I prefer na mag-email po kayo because we may not always have the time to take your calls. So you please email, baka mas maganda because you're able to give us details of your concerns and whatever you wish to ask. And for any feedback also, you can send to this email ad of the Bureau of Learning Delivery. And I think that's the last slide that I have. So I say thank you very much to all of you. And we expect that with us working together, we are ensured that our learners are in good hands, our teachers are in good hands in the implementation of Catch-Up Fridays. So thank you very much to all of you. I may not able to take on your questions after this because I have to run for another meeting, but our education program specialists are will always be willing to take on whatever questions that you're going to raise. And this may happen most likely, Luis, immediately after this or after their sessions. And let me inform that we're hopeful that USEC Gina will be able to join us during the closing program. Again, thank you very much to all of
Thank you
you,
so
and
much. Yes po.
congratulations for the first day of our Catch-Up Fridays. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Yes. Thank you so much, Director Leila, for that very explicit and comprehensive discussion. No? And we believe that everyone is ready and, of course, acquired a fresh and valuable input and learnings from your discussion. So I think at this juncture, no, may I invite our bureau specialists and, of course, Dr. Ma'am Rose to come on the virtual stage maybe to answer some inquiries from our participants. Ayan. Sige po. So I'll be reading some of your questions, no? And then we'll try our best. And Dr. Villanesa is here. She will address all of your concerns, no? Sige po. Sige. So let's start. Sige po. Mhm. Most of the questions are tungkol din sa PowerPoint presentations. Again, we will be sending on our link, no, yung QR code. And then yung QR code, you can scan the QR code and you can download all the materials on this orientation sa QR code na isend namin after the program. So, but at this point, just listen attentively and learn from the speaker's presentation. Okay? Sige po. Wait lang, naghang lang siya. Okay, sabi po dito...
Ang daming nag-raise ng hand. Tama ba ako?
Yes,
Are they raising their hand? Okay, sige.
Apo, binabasa ko muna yung ano ma'am bago tayo tumawag ng mga...
Okay, sige. Diyan muna.
Ano natin.
Okay, tama.
Apo. Sige po. So, wait lang mama. Ito po. Ayan. Sabi, integrative approach is an effective, sabi ni Ma'am Glorian, integrative approach is effective to learners who are already independent in terms of reading. Can we use Catch-Up Friday to intensify the reading intervention activities of the school to address reading problems, especially those struggling readers, Ma'am Rose?
Hello po. Good morning, everyone. Yes po, ma'am. I agree with you that integrative approach is really for independent reader. Now, in cases, especially with K-3 or even higher grades, and those who are not reading, we really have to address the reading problem. Remember the statement of our Secretary, Vice President Sara Duterte, that she wanted catch-up program 2. Number 1, it's very clear in her statement, for learners who does not know how to read, to learn to read. The next is for those who are already reader to develop critical thinking. Okay, for them to be critical thinker. And of course, you wanted the three, where we emphasize, or Director Leila emphasize that it should be integrative. Um, so there's really a need, because even if you want them to read and you want them to be critical, but if they still do not know how to read, they have to learn how to read. Okay? Yun po yun. And later on, in the presentation of the reading program, and of course how reading should be done in the context of, I would appreciate if you also ask more, because the more you ask questions, the more things are clarified. Remember that after this, you will have your own orientation, and we want everybody to be receiving a standardized information. We all know that at some point in our time, memorandums have different interpretations. So I'm glad that everybody's raising their hands, asking questions. So tama po kayo, ma'am. We have to address their problem. If they don't know how to read, then we have to teach them reading. We have to ensure that they will be able to read. And for those who are reader, that's the time. Now, talking about integrative approach, which is an excellent approach to enhancing the skills of others, or sinasabi nga yan sa reading, it's a content-based instruction, meaning to say you are developing the skills in reading, but your content will be the content of the other learning areas. Okay? So integration here is important, but it should be seamless. Okay? Huwag ipilit. Na-emphasize din yun ni Director Lay that we should not, like, because we follow the schedule, and because I am a Friday, I at my in the class program, I have to be with the learners 2 to 3. Then my subject is, my learning area is science, and I have to integrate even if my content is motion, I don't know. Okay? Better yet, to if you really cannot do integration, you have to focus on the three for that matter: values, health, and peace education. Because that's the goal. We just use the learning area assigned to you, because you don't have to change the class program, but bear in mind that the purpose of that is for our learners to be readers, and for our learners to develop the concepts in peace education, the concept in health education, and the concept on peace, health, and ano nga yung isa, Sir Luis?
Peace,
Values
health, and
education.
values.
Kasi we all know that there's reason why we need to integrate those, because these are concepts that will make our learners better Filipino learners, na nandoon, that they'll be able to internalize makabayan, makabansa, makadiyos, and makatao. Yun po yun. Thank you po, Sir G.
If, paano daw mangyayari sa kindergarten learners? Are the kindergartens included in the program?
Okay. Siyempre po, hindi po sila pwedeng i-seclude kasi kasama sila doon. At meron din naman silang klase. They have a class on a Friday. So, yung three na yon, the values, health, and peace, should also take, like, they should also be discussed in a kindergarten. And because they are in the curriculum, kindergarten should focus on the pre-reading skills or emergent literacy. So, hindi pa naman, we don't expect our kindergarten to be readers. But there are activities in the emergent literacy that will make them ready to read when they get grade 1. Like mastering the sounds of the letters, mastering the letter names, hanggang doon lang po sila. Then colors, numbers for numeracy, Pero dahil reading ito, pwedeng mag-focus sa reading, pero kung yun talaga din ang weakness, but health, and peace should also be developed, especially also in the kindergarten. Very simple activity that will make them realize the concept of being of a peaceful community, a peaceful classroom, a peaceful family, a simple activity that will make them realize that health is really wealth, that if they keep on brushing their teeth, if they keep on taking a bath, it will make them healthy. And then for what's the other one? For peace, health, and ano yung isa? Sorry, matanda na talaga.
Values, ma'am.
Values,
Peace, health,
okay?
and
So
values.
the beauty of sharing, the beauty of the beauty of respecting the others, just a play-based activity. The Friday of a kinder classroom a fun-filled Friday. Fun, but they are developing the concept of the three concepts that we are supposed to inculcate in their personality, because that is personhood, that is making them aware of all those values. Okay, and pagdating sa reading, emergent literacy, mga pre-reading skills po. Kasi, tingnan nyo, supposedly in grade 1, hindi na sana review na lang ng mga letter sounds and letter names. But our grade 1 teachers are still going back to all those because they have not mastered in the kindergarten. So mastery po is our key to attaining our desired goal, especially in reading. Okay, thank you po. Some more, Sir G?
Yes po. Most of the questions shift actually from the curriculum and materials, no? Sabi dito ni Sir Moral tsaka ni Sir Arnold Mahinay, I love the program, especially on enhancing our learners' reading comprehension abilities. My concern is our congested curriculum. First, the 4 contact days are allocated for the competencies as reflected in our MELT. Second, the necessary performance tasks and written work still need to be given as required for the assessment guidelines and usually falls on a Friday. So hope na matatag curriculum could address this. Thank you.
Okay. Matatag curriculum, as you know, the competencies of Matatag curriculum was really lessened. Okay? It started with health, and in the Matatag curriculum, na lesson po yun. But because we are implementing this sa panahon na yung iba, hindi pa naman nagmatatag curriculum, okay? Hindi pa sila, they're still using the old one because we are still piloting grades 1, 4, and 7. And we will be implementing grades 1, 4, and 7 next school year, nationwide, while we will also be piloting grades 2, 5, and 8. The bottom line is that we all know that reading is everything. Reading is the vehicle to all learning. And we are not also neglecting the rest. That is why we encourage content-based instruction. Okay? If there's really a need for a learning area, content of the learning area to be tackled, that can be the content of the reading material. So that's content-based instruction. Ganon din, that is why Director Leila has been emphasizing on integrative, because if there's really a need for us to discuss more the concept of that learning area, example AP, but using values education or peace education as a springboard, hindi pa rin natin naiiwan yung curriculum, okay, the target of the curriculum. The most important thing is, it's really a catch-up Friday. The goal is to strengthen what they have learned, what they have developed from Monday to Thursday, and strengthen it on a Friday, and augment it, enhance it, remediate it for those who are struggling, enhance it for those who are who have developed the skills. So yun po ang magiging takbo. Basta sir or fellow educators, we all know that if our learners are readers, everything follows. Pag nababasa na sila in the real sense of reading, in the real meaning of reading, that when you say that they are readers, they are comprehenders. So if our learners are really readers in the context of comprehenders, kasi yun ang totoong definition ng readers, yun pong mga concepts sa ibang learning area can be understood by them and can be reacted by them. That is why you will notice that the most important part or the assessment part, but it's not really assessment per se that are graded. They use journal because we want them to apply what they have developed in this catch-up program into something that they do in a journal and then they can reflect. Okay? Sige po. Some more, Sir G? Meron pa ba?
Yes, Chief. Marami pang questions. No, I think some of participants would like to ask questions online. So maybe I can call their name. Tapos, sige, makipagkwentuhan tayo sa kanila. Siguro,
Sir G, yung mga lahat ng mga questions na hindi natin ma-address, although we'll try to address all of them, but similar questions will not be tackled anymore pag nasagot na yun sa isa. Yung iba
Yes,
naman,
ma'am.
pag hindi na talaga pwede, we record naman, naka-record naman ito.
Yes,
so that
ma'am.
we'll be able to address them. Okay, sige po.
Yes, ma'am. So, can I call Manahaw, the elementary school from Manahaw? Manahaw Elementary School, you're recognized. Hello? Mukhang wala si ma'am. Ma'am Francia Abalos.
Baka naka-mute.
Sir Kaloy? Tinang ko. Allow Mike. Allow Manahaw Elementary School.
Naka-mute si Manahaw. O yan. O sige. Manahaw. Wala naman.
Wala, ma'am. Sige po. Ma'am Francia Abalos.
Baka nasagot na. Simula ka sa simula. Alex
Sige
Ray.
po. Anyone from the participants na nagtaas ng kamay? Francia, Jenny, Haspe, Concepcion, Irish, and Sardon? And Alex Rehuso? Sige. Mukha namang walang may gusto.
Isabel Layon.
Sige po, anyone? Ma'am Francia? Sige po, mukhang baka mahina yung camera nila. Di po ma-unmute. Sir Kaloy, please help.
Sino yon?
Again, no, participants, we will not be sending presentation to your email addresses individually. Instead, kindly wait for the QR code to be posted on the screen and simply download the materials in the QR code po. No? So again, we will not send all the presentation directly to your email addresses. Thank you. So wala po bang gustong Sir Alex, Sir Don, you would like to ask question? Sige po. So mukhang wala naman. Gayol Lorna.
O, si Lorna. Sige, Chief Lorna.
Ayan. Chief Lorna, you recognize po. Gayol Lorna. Sige po. Allow mic. Di ro ma-unmute.
Paano ba ang nag-disabled ng disabled mic ba? Yun ba yun? Hindi naman ma-unmute.
Sa admin daw. Sir Kaloy?
Sir, naka-allow na po sila.
Naka-allow na? Naka-allow na daw.
Ayun, Lorna.
Ma'am Lorna, you recognize po.
Opo. Okay. Ano yan? Allowed na yan? Hindi naman. Kasi nakaano. Okay, Chief Lorna, pindutin lang ninyo ulit para makapagsalita na kayo. Or sino pa?
Sige
From
po. So
those
while
who-
waiting that, hello?
Sino yung marami siyang si Francia, Janet, Haspe, Concepcion.
Siguro, Ma'am Rose, may question dito, no? Sabi, as a reading coordinator, how do I evaluate the learner's progress in this program? Is there any other tools to be used for that aside from PhilErie?
Di ba meron tayong CRLA, yung comprehensive reading assessment? Yun. And then of course PhilErie, then of course EGRA, if the EGRA. Yung ginamit natin sa ano yun eh, yung ginamit sa national reading, mamaya, is
Sige
the
po, mamaya ipapakita yun.
comprehensive reading assessment. And then if you have EGRA is broader than CRLA. Then of course for higher grades, you have PhilErie.
Sige po. As of now daw po, the schedule of the school is for LAC session. And that's yung LAC nila is every other week of the month. So how do our school conduct school LAC while implementing the Catch-up Fridays?
Okay, good morning. Unmuted na.
Okay, sino ito?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. This is Alex of Northern Samar Region 8 po.
Okay. Sige. Alex Rehuso.
Yes po, just
Sige
now.
po, you recognize, sir.
Good morning,
po.
everyone. Good morning, ma'am. It's really good to have Catch-up Friday, no? Well, the rationale will tell us everything. My most concern po dito, ma'am, is yung ating mga gagamiting learning resources, yung ating gagamiting mga reading materials. Would the central office can ensure the sufficiency of the materials? Would it be 1:1 or 1:2 or 1:3 in all grade levels? And if there are possible provision of all reading materials, ito ba ay mayroong variations as to the learners who are in a frustration level, learners who are in developing stage, or learners who are independent reader to develop a critical thinking? So meron ba tayong nakaplano dyan, at how can the field expect, or when can the field expect those reading materials for these Catch-up Fridays? Thank you po.
Chief, dagdagan din natin yon. Some participants nag-ask din if they will prepare lesson plans. Ang tanong ni sir, if we prepared materials, siguro dagdagan pa natin, are we requiring them to prepare lesson plans for the Catch-up Fridays? Or do we have a standardized tool for teaching guide for our teachers? Sige po, Chief.
Okay, so thank you, Sir Alex, and of course the rest who ask questions in relation to lesson plan and materials. Okay, later on in the presentation of the BCD for reading, you will notice that in the Drop Everything and Read, our learners are encouraged to read the materials that they love, what they love to read. It is not really a requirement for us to force them to read the materials. We allow them to get the materials from the different choices, or even the materials that they have at home, to bring and for them to read. Okay, that's one if they're readers. But your problem is more than that, sir. And I understand. Okay, so for those who are really frustrated readers, who are, like they still struggling on the letters and the sounds. We have our existing reading materials which they can use. And if they still cannot read, we have wordless books. We had wordless books. You know, they can all the while we thought na pag nagbukas sila ng mga wordless books, hindi yun pagbabasa. It is still reading. They put words on the picture, and that is, you know, like it is the purpose of a wordless book. Marami pong ginawa yung mga teachers natin. They, you know, like, and I don't believe the schools do not have reading materials. You know, from all those frustrations, because these are things that we also use in the learning camp. Okay? Then for lesson exemplars, we all know that it has been emphasized, and it's in the memo, that our Ketchup Friday is non-graded. But there is a need for us to come up with an instructional guide. Kasi hindi po pwedeng bara-bara ka lang haharap sa teacher o magre-reading tayo. Hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin sa first 30 minutes, hindi for reading because you have 3 hours for reading, and the half of the day will be devoted to the 3 concepts, the values, the health, and the peace. So dapat meron ka rin. But it is not a full-blown lesson, but it's an instructional guide for the teachers to know what should be done, how the first 30 minutes should be done, the next 1 hours, how will the next 1 hours be done, and the rest of the hours for reading, and of course for the 3 concepts that you need to develop. And later on, that is why we want you to stay, because later on, BCD will be presenting a semi-structured or instructional guide on how reading should take place in this Drop Everything and Read for Ketchup Friday, because that's the first one that we need to do, and the rest will be focusing on the rest of the skills yet, especially for those frustrated readers. Okay? The next is that in the afternoon, the 3, the values, the peace education, and the health will also present to you an instructional guide for the teachers to follow on how they go about the 1 hour or 45 minutes lesson to develop those skills and to introduce the concept of integration. So stay with us, sir, because some of those problems will be addressed as we go through through this one-day orientation. Okay? So it's non-graded, but again, we cannot face our learners without anything to follow and without, you know, anything to discuss about. So there's a need. Now the problem might be, sabihin na naman ninyo, paano ma'am? How will they do that? They are not a math teacher, or they are not a reading teacher. That is why in this particular year and onward, because ever since I become a teacher, luck is already there. But it was spent differently. Sorry. This time, it's high time for us to do learning action cell or collaborative expertise. Luis, later on. Sorry, ah.
Sir G, nakamute po kayo.
Ay, sorry. As what Ma'am was saying, no? Kasi mamayang hapon, with our bureau specialists, they will discuss about the integration. So, using this integration, say for example, you're teaching math, you're teaching science, you're teaching other learning areas, how to integrate these learning areas to the concept of peace, values education, or health education. So you don't need to to make pilit, napilitin natin yung na ituro itong mga learning areas na ito, no? Na wala naman talaga sa mga competencies. Again, we're not revising, we're still implementing the matatag curriculum, we're still teaching the competencies as stated in the matatag curriculum. We're just simply integrating all these concepts sa matatag curriculum na ito, no? So yun. Sabi pa dito, sige, magbasa pa po ako, no? So again, hello from City Bogo Division. Concerned po namin what about the schools implementing the special programs in arts, maybe special arts, special science, or other mandated special programs because most of the arts classes are scheduled in Friday. Since Monday to Thursday are included to the core subjects po. Can also provide provide a sample schedule of classes for this matter. Salamat po. Yes, noted po yan. No, maybe our bureau specialist can address this. Kung magpapakita po sila ng mga sample program for these special cases. Yes, Ma'am Rose.
We might not be able to answer all your questions, especially on very crucial points, but we are recording all your questions. The bottom line is, fellow educators, let us just remember this. The educational system of our country is really at risk. Alam natin yan, sa lahat ng resulta, from the NAT to the national and all those, that is why we are doing this. So, this Catch Up Friday should really be Catch Up Friday. It could be an enhancement, it could be an enrichment, and it should also allow our learners to develop these three concepts, these values. You know, there are very important reasons why all these three should be inculcated as early as kinder, because health is wealth. We have to teach our learners how to be healthy. Next, we have to, in all grade levels, and even at home, okay? Then we also have to, peace education. When we have peace, progress is there. And peace does not only mean in the absence of war, okay? Peace also means they're happy inside the classroom. They're happy. They have good teachers. They have teachers who understand their struggles. All those from kinder to grade 10. And of course, the other one is health, peace, and ano yung isa, Luis? Health,
Values,
peace,
health, and peace.
values, which is very important. We all know what is the status of our values nowadays. You see, teachers, I really appreciate our secretary thinking about Catch Up Friday and including these three very important concepts that our learners. And reading, again, you all know that it is a vehicle to all learning. Unless our learners are able to read, they won't be able to understand concepts in the rest of the learning areas. Kaya reading tayo, we will help our learners read. If you have problems in this four, the reading and the rest, as what in the memo or according to Director Leila, you can even invite resource person to help you, like health awareness. Okay, 1 hour for health awareness. You can invite help people in the community to help you. It does not necessarily mean na ikaw lang, na yung teacher lang na nandoon ang pwedeng gumawa niyan. And again, may I say this is high time for us to rekindle our love for school-based learning action cell, or the so-called collaborative expertise. Collaborative expertise is really part of learning action cell. Allow our teachers to talk about the problems in reading and allow them to prepare materials for reading. Kahit pabibigyan kayo ng maraming reading materials ng kahit na sino-sino kung hindi naman yan appropriate sa bata. Kaya mas maganda talaga kasi hindi naman yung materials Ang kailangan talaga dyan, yung skill na ma-develop ng bata. But nonetheless, continue on listening until this orientation will be over because there will be presentation and some materials will be uploaded. Okay? And we don't put a stop on this. BLD and the rest of the bureaus in the central office will continue to provide you with these materials that you will be needing because we are already looking forward to strengthening your capacity to do that. Basta, chiefs, my dear CLMD and CID chiefs, talk to the school heads and let them do action cell and talk about the problems that they encountered, problems that they need, and tell us our job as instructional leaders, supervisors, is to provide technical assistance. It's high time that we collaborate because we cannot remain at the bottom of all this local and national and international assessment that we're joining. Okay? So I hope I was able to answer all the rest. And yung mga related pa, Sir Luis, hindi na natin sasagutin kasi related naman yun. Kung meron siyang naiibang tanong, siguro yan na lang ang pwede nating sagutin.
Yes, ma'am, no? Siguro sa akin yung takeaway ko dito na we are recommending them that our counterparts in our field implementers should contextualize our implementation, no? May mga nagtatanong din no, na kung may lesson plan, may mga ganyan. Siguro on top of these materials na gagawin natin, most important is our school, our teachers are very, strategic in developing our materials in this implementation. Kasi, again, kayo po makakasagot niya no, kung depende sa mga learners sa school ninyo, kung nasaan na talaga sila. Siguro, Chief, ito last question na lang na nakita ko dito. Paano naman daw po yung mga nasa Arabic languages and Islamic values education? Di po ba sila, paano daw po sila mag-implement ng Catch Up Fridays? Arabic languages and Islamic values education.
Ano ba ito? Okay. Ito yung mga private madrasa school or government. Kasi kung private sila, syempre wala tayong full. Ang kailangan lang natin ensure sa mga private madaris is they implement the curriculum. Pero yung catch up, syempre may sarili silang ruling kasi private sila. Pero pag government ito, kay science ka, kay SPED ka or whatever, Catch Up Friday is for everyone. Okay? Now, I hope klaro yon. Ito lang talaga yung last ko na sasabihin regarding the materials. Please lang po, ang hinihingi ko po sa lahat, I keep on telling this on trainings, hindi po lahat ng materials na nakikita ninyo sa Facebook at may binibenta. Isipin mo yung Catch Up Friday, Sir Luis, nakita mo yon? Meron na kaagad binibenta na materials for Catch Up Friday, 180 pesos. Careful po tayo. Kasi ito na yung sinasabi ko sa mga reading. Ang tagal-tagal na, ang dami nating mga reading program. Bakit marami pa rin hindi nakakabasa? Kasi ito yung sinasabi natin na research-based na paraan sa pagtuturo ng reading. Pero dahil nga empowered, gagawa tayo ng sarili natin na hindi natin sinusunod, na hindi naman siya research-based. So yun lang yun. Let us be careful in choosing the materials. Okay? We are just a text away. We are one DepEd family. Let us help. Huwag po tayong magpa-deceive sa kung ano-anong materials na binibenta at kung ano-anong mga materials na nakukuha ng mga teachers dyan sa internet, sa Facebook and all. Hindi po lahat ng pagkain nakakabuti. In the same way, hindi po lahat ng nakikita ninyo for reading materials ay talagang nagtuturo ng reading. Okay? Marami tayong mga materials nandyan. Just text us, just message us, and we will provide you. Even if we come to your school, that's not a problem. For as long as we are doing the right thing. Please lang po, or else hindi tayo matapos. Baka pagkatapos ng Catch-up Friday, meron na naman tayong Catch-up Saturday kasi hindi pa natin na-address ang problema. Ito talaga ang nakikita kong problema. Wala akong pakialam kung gagawa kayo ng sarili ninyong programa ng reading, ibang pangalan, wala yon. Ang importante, standardize yung content. Yung content na nasa research base. Hindi po nagkulang. May mga CD pa yan, may mga video pa yan. Yun po, huwag tayong lilihis sa tama. Because reading, the science of reading is telling us that there's no other way to teach reading except this one. Except the big six and all those. Kung kulang po yung idea natin, we are here to listen to you and we are here to provide you what you needed. Yun lang po, careful tayo sa mga materials. Okay lang, magawa kayo ng sarili ninyong pangalan dyan, catch up something, whatever, kasi nakita ko ang gaganda ng mga ideas nyo. But please, do not get away with the research-based approach to teaching reading. Because sinabi po doon na it is not true that there's 100 ways to kill a chicken. When it comes to reading, yun lang po ang daang paraan sa pagtuturo ng reading. Okay? So, I think the feedback, I think the contributions of each and every one of you, ang galing. Ang galing talaga. Talagang masisipag talaga tayo. Okay?
Nakabuo na agad tayo ng mga sarili, mga program, no? Contextualized program.
Ang dami
ng
na nila
localities.
kaagad. Kaya lang, syempre, kailangan nasa research-based tayo. Kung ano yung tama, yung ano yung appropriate. Kasi pwede din man maging tama yon. Kasi nagbababy ko, sabihin mo sa akin, ay, nakabasa nga ang bata, ma'am. Oh, ba, be, be. Nakabasa ang bata, ma'am. So, akala natin tama, pero that is not the appropriate way to teach. Ang best talaga is proven, a research-based approach. Okay? So, consult your ELLN, reading experts dyan, and again, we're just a text away. We are one DepEd family. Okay?
Sige. Ma'am, baka may pwede na mag-unmute dito sa mga participants natin.
Ano na?
Baka may pwedeng magtanong. Maybe you can call one participant
Oh,
who
sige,
want to
okay.
ask
Hindi
online.
nag-raise ng hands. Okay, sige.
Marami sila eh. Ma'am Jenny, Haspe, Concepcion, Isabel, Brigitte, Richard Moral.
Okay, sige po. Ask questions.
Sir
Remember
Richard,
po, pagkatapos
sinong kaya
nito, hindi na kayo makapagtanong. So, dapat ngayon magtanong na kayo. Sino pa po? Itanong na ang lahat. Do not be ashamed. Wala pong bayad ang pagtatanong.
Sir Richard? Sir Dodong Moral?
Si Jonalyn, makabuhay.
Ma'am Jonalyn? Sino pwede mag-unmute?
Jonalyn, makabuhay siyang.
Meron ba? Jonalyn Makabuhay? Hindi raw kayo mag-unmute. Naku. Okay? Sige po. So, type in lang daw po yung mga questions for... But anyway, noted naman po lahat ng mga questions nyo. Again, no, in the event that we cannot read your... We fail to read your questions or some are sending questions via messenger, lahat naman po yan ay masasagot po natin. No? So I think let's call on a break, just a 10-minute break before we proceed to our next session to be delivered by Ms. Ayat Ferriols, the National Reading Program on Catch-Up Fridays, Claveria approach. Sige po. Ma'am, naka-unmute, naka-unmute ka ba?
Okay, salamat sa question. Pwede bang gamitin ang Claveria approach? Matagal ko na pong sinasabi na hindi po yan research-based. Hindi po yan tama sa pagtuturo ng reading. Alam na alam ko po yung Claveria. Ito yung may drawing sa taas. Halimbawa po, babae. So sa taas ng ba, may drawing na baka. Sa taas ng ba, may drawing na baka. Ang sa taas ng M, kahit sinong bata, hindi tuturuan magbasa, makabasa talaga. Tingnan mo lang yung drawing sa taas. Ano yung simulang tunog? Ba. So alam mo na ba yun? So pagtingin mo na naman sa susunod, may baka na nun sa taas ba? May eroplano. So babae, mabasa yun ng bata. Ang tanong, meron ba kayong nakitang mga words sa tanang buhay ninyo na libro na kahit signages sa school na merong drawing sa taas? That is just a pinch of the skill in the word recognition skill. Yan ay visual, okay? Visual interpretation or putting meaning to what you have seen. Okay? It's just a pinch of a word recognition activity. Hindi po yan.
Chief na wala ka. Okay? So na-address ni Chief no to Claveria. So Chief, last question. Kasali ba daw ang senior high school? Okay? Chief, ba't wala ka sa akin? Hello? Sige po, i-standby na lang po muna yung more questions. Mamaya na i-address lahat yan ni Chief Rose on our open forum. But we're giving, sige, mag-inat-inat muna tayo. No? We're giving 10 minutes break to all our participants. So balik po tayo, it's 10:40. So balik po tayo 10:50. Everyone, please go on a 10-minute break.
Uy, kita nawala lagi ta. Hello. Hello.
Okay, we're back. Narinig na kami. Ayat, try mo magsalita kung narinig ka na. Sige, hintayin lang natin ang ating next speaker na makaset up. Yes, ma'am. Okay, again, good morning, everyone. So we'll proceed to the next session. So for our next session to discuss about the National Reading Program on Catch Up Fridays, no other than the Supervising Education Program Specialist from the Bureau of Curriculum Development, Ms. Ayet Ferriols. Ms. Ayet, the floor is yours. Ms. Ayet, nakaset up ka na po ba? Mr. Sam, sige nga, chat nga tayo mga participants. Narinig niyo po ba ako?
Yes, sir. Naririnig ka. Sige,
Okay.
unmute po.
Ayan. Miss Ayet, naka-unmute ka pa. Tech team, paki-unmute po si Miss Ayet, ang ating speaker. Ayan. Miss Ayet, organizer ka na, no? So, I think you can unmute pa rin po. Miss Ayet, do you hear me?
Yes po.
Okay. Sige po. Okay, friends from the Department of Education, again, let us all welcome the supervising specialist from the Bureau of Curriculum Development who will discuss about the National Reading Program on Catch-Up Fridays. No other than Ms. Ayet Feriol. Ms. Ayet.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. So I will be talking about the National Reading Program on Catch-Up Fridays. So for the information of everyone in this orientation, the National Reading Program is present in two different policies. So the first is the DepEd memo on Catch-Up Fridays, and we also have an ongoing or a policy that is still ongoing approval, which is the Pagbasa, Pagkwenta, Pag-asa, or the P3, in which you will find the National Reading Program implemented for an additional 30 minutes every day from Monday to Friday. So we're not going to talk about that right now in this session. We're going to focus on how NRP is conducted for half the class program or 3 hours during catch-up Fridays. Okay. Now, a lot of you may already know what the National Reading Program is all about. In fact, we've been working on this reading initiative since October of 2022. Ayan, and we've already finalized drafting the policy. We've already gone through looking for learning resources that may be used for the program and even training some of our school leaders and national trainers. Now, right now, because there is a bit of a restructuring for the National Reading Program, this orientation is going to be very helpful as you navigate how this program will be implemented during Friday. So in order for us to effectively digest how the NRP will play a role in the catch-up Friday sessions, here is the outline of my discussion. We will begin with the relationship of the National Reading Program and the Matatag language learning areas, the components of the NRP, assessment, curriculum delivery, and learning resources in the National Reading Program. So let's begin. So the NRP is an initiative aimed at improving the reading skills and outcomes for children and young people across the country by providing access to high-quality reading materials and resources, as well as professional development opportunities for teachers and other education professionals. So the NRP was initiated in response to the need to improve the reading performance of Filipino learners. Okay, so as you know, we have international large-scale assessments which have informed us that there is a need to help our learners attain the necessary literacy skills, the reading skills that they need at par with their grade level. Okay, we have a lot of reports of illiteracy going around, not just with these international large-scale assessments, but also our very own national achievement test. Okay, which tells us that there is indeed a need for us to focus on helping our learners develop the necessary literacy skills, not just to attain proficiency in the target language, but also to help them acquire content knowledge in other learning areas. Okay, magsisimula po ang lahat sa pagbabasa. And the NRP was done in order to do that. Now, we would like to emphasize that the NRP is not a totally new program. Okay, this is an initiative that aims to streamline all of the existing reading initiatives. Back in 2022, when we talked to reading initiative implementers, we found out that there are hundreds of initiatives present across the country. Hindi po natin babaliwalain yun. So all of the methodologies that you have found to be effective, all of the resources that you're currently using, lahat po yan ay pwede nating gamitin para po sa ating national reading program. Now, what the NRP provides is a uniform structure so that when we are asked for data, ilan ang mga batang marunong magbasa, ilan ang mga batang kailangan ng tulong, we have data to present. And based on this data, we can take the necessary steps to indeed truly help our learners attain the literacy skills that they need, not just in basic education, but also in real life. Okay. So the National Reading Program follows this framework that you see on this slide. As you know, the NRP is a comprehensive program. Hindi lang po ito nakukulong sa loob ng DepEd. You will find that it involves multiple external stakeholders. And sa loob mismo ng DepEd, there is a need for the whole school, okay, and even the whole agency to support its effective implementation. Now, the NRP goes beyond the development of reading skills. As we know, reading literacy is only one component of literacy. Napakalawak po kapag sinabi nating literacy. It's not just the ability to read and write. Its main goal is to build and strengthen learners' literacy, which according to UNESCO is a means of identification, understanding, interpretation, creation, and communication in an increasingly digital, text-meditated, information-rich, and fast-changing world. Through this program, okay, our learners develop a continuum of learning and proficiency in reading, writing, and using numbers. So kahit po numeracy ay tinatalakay na rin po natin dito. These are the skills that they will use throughout life and are very important, okay? And that includes not just being able to read, write, and do arithmetic, but also NRP fosters the development of digital skills and even media literacy, as well as education for sustainable development and global citizenship, so that we are producing learners who are ready for the real world. Okay. Achieving this goal calls for a relevant curriculum, as you can see right there, yung apat na interlocking arrows. Okay. We need a relevant curriculum, we need adequate resources, appropriate delivery, and a strong assessment system, as well as well-trained teachers and instructional leaders with in-place support mechanisms. You will find that in this framework, we have specifically identified as key players, teachers and instructional leaders. So I understand that I am in the midst of instructional leaders, mga chiefs po ng ating mga division and regional offices. You are very important in making sure that the message of NRP is effectively cascaded to our internal stakeholders, not just our teachers, but also to our learners and parents as well. Okay, so in the outer circle of our framework, you will find that also equally important in the process of delivering the NRP is a monitoring and evaluation system that is guided by research. Okay, this is important in order for us to determine whether goals are realized, okay, and whether or not the program is indeed effective in your locales. So the NRP is grounded on the science of reading and evidence-based instruction, and it stresses the importance of addressing the learner's needs through the implementation of responsive reading programs, interventions, approaches, methodologies, and techniques, which are in turn aided by developmentally and grade-level appropriate learning resources and technology. Therefore, the conduct of assessment for learning must also provide data for instructional leaders and teachers para po informed ang ating decision-making process. Now, the seamless interfacing with teachers and instructional leaders, which is what we are expected to do after this orientation, is expected to create a culture of responsive and nurturing feedback mechanisms. Frequent monitoring and evaluation will provide us with the data that we need to review and ensure continuous improvement. Now, in order to sustain the implementation of NRP, we are going to need a very strong support mechanism. At makikita nyo po yan at the base of our framework. So we have here the national government agencies, even LGUs, development partners, parents and guardians, the private sector, civil society organizations, teacher education institutions, and other education stakeholders. This collaboration is going to ensure that every Filipino learner is literate and a productive member of society. So truly, the NRP requires a whole-of-nation approach that will entail all of our efforts, hindi lang po sa loob ng DepEd. Now, we would like to emphasize that the NRP is anchored on the framework of the language learning areas in the Matatag curriculum. The NRP is not operating in its own silo. It's not being implemented in isolation. It is anchored on a bigger framework, which is the language curriculum framework. Because at the end of the day, one of the goals of the language curricula is for us to develop young Filipino learners who have literacy skills. Okay, and in order to do that, the NRP serves as a supplement to our curriculum para po masigurado natin that these curriculum goals are indeed met. Aside from being able to be or being literate, okay, the language curriculum also aims to develop learners who are communicatively competent and have a great sense of cultural identity. You will find here that these goals are realized through the big ideas, including literacy as one of the big ideas. And very similar to the framework for NRP, makikita po ninyo, the goals will have to be carried out through effective pedagogy, very good learning resources, and an effective assessment tool guided by contextualization and theories on language acquisition and learning. So the NRP forms part of this curriculum framework. Now, one more thing that we would like to share about the new Matatag curriculum for the language learning areas is its shifting big ideas. Kanina po, no, nakita nyo, literacy is one of the focus of our curriculum guide. It's one of the big ideas. And you will find that across key stages, that focus shifts. In the first key stage, it's very important that literacy be developed first and foremost. Matuto muna magbasa at magsulat ang mga bata. That is the goal of the first key stage of the languages or the language learning areas. But this does not mean that the other big ideas will take a backseat. Language and text are also present, but they are not the primary focus. Instead, they serve as vehicles towards literacy formation and development. You will also find that across key stages 2 until 3, literacy is still present, which means that literacy skills are continuously being improved even upon its establishment in the first key stage. In order for us to better visualize this, here is our literacy focus across key stages. So in key stage 1, our focus is going to be oracy for literacy, or the ability to use relevant oral language elements like phonological awareness, vocabulary, listening capacity, which are necessary in developing basic literacy or beginning literacy. Basic literacy is going to be developed once oracy for literacy is established by the first 2 learning areas introduced in grade 1. This is language and reading and literacy. In grade 2, when English and Filipino are introduced, the focus is going to be the development of basic literacy in these 2 target languages as well as the mother tongue. So what is basic literacy? This refers to the skills used for the initial learning of reading and writing, which means that at the end of key stage 1 or by the end of grade 3, we would like learners to be able to have basic literacy in all of these 3 languages, mother tongue, Filipino, and English. Once they have these basic literacy skills, by key stage 2, this is further elevated as we develop what we call critical and applied literacy, which refers to the central thinking skill that involves questioning, examination of ideas, synthesizing, analyzing, interpreting, evaluating, responding to text, and the ability to evaluate veracity of information, make connections, and judgments. Okay? So by key stage 2, we expect learners to be able to have critical and applied literacy in the target languages so that they are ready finally for key stage 3, where we target multi-literacies. So iba-ibang literacy skill na po ito, not just the ability to read and write, but also the ability to understand information and the design of meaning through the manipulation of different modes like linguistic meaning, visual meaning, audio, gestural, tactile, and even spatial meaning. Now, why is it important for us, instructional leaders, to have an understanding of the different literacy focus in the different key stages? Okay? With all of these goals in mind, we know that the focus of NRP during Catch-up Fridays, for example, in key stage 1, is the development of these literacy skills. You're not going to be focusing on higher levels of literacy in key stage 1 because it's clear to you that in grades 1 to 3, when we do the NRP, the materials that we provide, the methodologies that we use, and the strategies are going to be geared towards the development of oracy for literacy and basic literacy only. In key stage 2, it's going to be a higher or different level of literacy, critical and applied literacy. And by key stage 3, we have multi-literacies. So by keeping the end in mind, we know how to navigate towards the goals, not just of the curriculum, but also the National Reading Program. Okay, so how do we get to these goals? The NRP has 2 very important components. We have reading enhancement and reading intervention. And these are not new terminologies in the Department of Education. When we talk about reading enhancement, we're talking about an activity or a set of activities that were designed to develop a love for reading and promote the culture of reading among our learners. This is specifically for learners who have already proficiently mastered the prerequisite skills for the next reading stage or grade level, or grade-ready learners. If you find that a learner, through assessment, is already grade-ready, Okay, he or she has already satisfied all of the prerequisite skills for that particular stage of reading, then that learner is ready for this component of NRP, which is reading enhancement. If otherwise, that learner will undergo what we call reading intervention, or the process of helping learners who have not attained proficiency in the prerequisite reading skills for the next reading stage. So in reading intervention, we, as instructional leaders, will facilitate a platform that will bridge the gap in reading. Okay? So our goal right here in reading intervention is to identify the cause of difficulty. Sa decoding ba? Sa vocabulary? Is it syntactic deficits? And our goal at the end of the day is to bring the learner's reading abilities up to age-appropriate levels so that they can better participate in their educational and professional or personal lives. Okay? So the NRP, through this intervention, will facilitate all of the necessary support that learners need so that we help them attain grade readiness. So the next question is, how do we know which component a student should be subjected to? Of course, we have to have an effective assessment tool. Okay, and right now, in existence in the DepEd system are two reading assessment tools. First is the CRLA, or the Comprehensive Rapid Literacy Assessment, and the PhilErie, or the Philippine Informal Reading Inventory. Okay, let's focus first on the CRLA. So the CRLA lasts for 5 to 8 minutes, and it's a standardized rapid assessment tool that is administered twice a year, at the beginning of the school year, or the BOSI, and the end of school year, or the EOSY. The CRLA BOSY is administered at the beginning of the school year to determine the reading profiles and needs of the learners. So this serves as a profiling test. If the learner is assessed to perform below standards, then that learner will be placed under intervention, where learners are further classified according to the following reading profiles. We have full refresher, moderate refresher, and light refresher. On the other hand, if a learner is assessed to be grade ready, which means that that learner meets or exceeds the standards, then that learner will be placed under reading enhancement. If you have transferees, then the same process will apply. Now, the CARLA EOSY is administered as a post-assessment during the closing of the school year. And this has two purposes. First, as an achievement test to measure the knowledge and skills learned in the grade level. Okay, and it also serves as a profiling test for Learning Camp. As you know, we have Learning Camp every summer. So the results of the EOSY may be used to profile students and to effectively categorize them according to their reading needs. Okay, so the CRLA, I would like to remind everyone, is only used by Key Stage 1 learners. So from grades 1 to 3 lang po ito. Okay. Later, we're going to show you the focus of the curriculum guides that were anchored on the CRLA, and you will find kung bakit hanggang Key Stage 1 lang po siya. No? The CRLA aims to determine reading performance and even assess the ongoing program so that we can predict learner achievement and effectively inform instruction in grades 1 to 3. Now, for Key Stage 2, we will be using the PhilErie. So the PhilErie is, again, this is not something new. This is a diagnostic test that is administered approximately for 30 minutes during class time so that we can determine the learner's abilities. So all students in grades 4 to 6 shall undergo the PhilErie group screening test, or the GST, in Filipino and English, which are the primary medium of teaching and learning at this key stage. Learners identified to be performing below the level of expectation, which is below 14, okay, a raw score of below 14, shall undergo further assessment through the individually administered PhilErie grade passages. This may be conducted outside class hours. These passages may also be used to classify learners into frustration level. Ibig sabihin po, a learner can no longer read and understand on his own. Instructional level, where the learner can read with the support of a teacher, or independent level, where the learner can read on his or her own without any assistance. And this is the only reading level that qualifies for enhancement. So for a comprehensive discussion on the administration of the PhilErie, we will be referring you to the PhilErie Manual of 2018. Now, here is a sample decision tree for Key Stage 1. I-zoom in po natin para po makita po ninyo, no? Now, this decision tree, because it's for Key Stage 1, it's going to be using the CRLA as a mode of assessing students or profiling our students. So at the beginning of the decision tree, the student undergoes the NRP assessment, which is in the form of the CRLA, and then we ask ourselves, does that learner or student meet the reading standards? If the answer is no, then that student should be subject to remediation or intervention. Once you're here, okay, you will now ask yourselves, what level, okay, should the student be categorized in or classified under? We have full refresher, moderate refresher, and light refresher. Regardless of the reading profile, all of our students will undergo formative assessment and continuous reading activities. Okay, this is to ensure that they are provided with the necessary support in their reading needs. And at the end of that cycle, at the end of every quarter, a summative test shall be provided by the teacher to determine whether the student requires more intervention, ibang klaseng curriculum na ba ang kailangan niya pero remediation pa rin, or is that student now qualified for enhancement? Okay, so depending on the result of the assessment, this decision tree is going to help us make the necessary or take the necessary steps forward. Now, if a student is identified to be grade ready or meeting expectations, then that student will undergo enhancement. In the enhancement component of the NRP, the student undergoes continuous pleasure reading activities. But at the end of every quarter, assessment should be done in order to ensure that that student still qualifies for enhancement. O baka naman po kailangan niya na ng remediation or intervention. At the end of the school year, our goal is to help our students attain grade level reading standards. So in Key Stage 1, because we make use of the CRLA as our reading assessment tool, we'll also be using a curriculum that is specifically designed to cater to the needs that have been identified by CRLA. Okay, so dito nyo po maiintindihan kung bakit po ang CRLA ay para sa Key Stage 1 lamang. If a student is identified to be a full refresher, the emerging curriculum is used. Okay, and the emerging curriculum focuses specifically on the mastery of phonological awareness and alphabet knowledge. So yun lang pong mga elements of reading ang focus ng full refresher. For moderate refresher, the developing curriculum is used, and this targets alphabet knowledge, phonics instruction, which eventually leads to mastery of word recognition. So again, you will notice that the elements of reading are a little bit lower in terms of cognitive demand. And finally, for light refresher, which entails a transitioning curriculum, this is designed for more complex literacy competencies that focus on word and phrase reading. Okay. Now, all of these curricula are going to be made available to you via a link that we will be giving BLD. So I saw in the chat that BLD will be providing you with a QR code which will serve as their repository. So we will be providing you with all of these materials. So hindi nyo na po kailangang mag-develop ng sarili ninyong curriculum. This curriculum will be given to you and all of the lesson guides that are entailed in each curriculum. If your school, your division, or your region carried out the learning camp last summer, then you will already have access to all of the lesson guides that are needed for all of these 3 different curricula. Okay. So ito na po yung magbibigay ng specifics sa ating Catch-up Friday. So you may be asking, half a class program or 3 hours is very long to conduct NRP. How exactly are we going to do it? Here is a sample routine for Catch-up Fridays, specifically for reading intervention. Okay, I'd like to remind the body as well that for the first month of Catch-up Fridays, the first 4 weeks is going to be reading enhancement lang po. Dear, drop everything and read. So this intervention can take a back seat as you plan for it better in the next month. So we start off with a pre-reading exercise, which can last for 30 minutes. Again, this is just a suggestive routine. At the end of the day, you are free to contextualize this based on your needs and based on the logistics of your local or your context. During the pre-reading session, we can activate learners' prior knowledge so that we spark interest and motivate them to read. So the first part of the session, you could also include goal setting so that learners are prepared for the reading process. And in turn, all of these processes, schema building and goal setting, will help in improving comprehension and retention of the text. Then we allot 2 hours or 120 minutes for the during reading process. So what happens here? This is where we develop learners' various reading skills to improve vocabulary, learn new words and expressions, enhance creativity and imagination. So during this part, the teacher and learners can engage in meaningful and active use of the target language. Finally, for 30 minutes during the post-reading activity, we can provide learners with the chance to reflect, develop a deeper understanding of the text, and promote the use of language or newly learned words in a creative way. Again, this is just a suggested routine. And later, ipapakita ko po sa inyo kung paano pa natin bibiyakin yung 120 minutes during reading. Okay. Now, we understand the realities in the field and we try to accommodate these realities as much as possible. And the first step to do so is by providing the following class options. Okay, so right here we have 4 different scenarios. So let's take a look at option 1. Ayan po. Okay. So let's say in option 1, we have a teacher that handles one class, but in that class, there are different reading profiles. Okay, it's all the same grade level, halimbawa grade 1, but in that same class, you have different reading profiles. We have a full refresher, moderate refresher, and light refresher. Okay, so that's option 1. Option 2 is the ideal class option, in which one teacher handles one class with the same reading profile in the same grade level. So halimbawa po, si Teacher A, ang hawak niya lang ay grade 1 na full refresher. Okay, si Teacher C, ang hawak niya lang ay grade 1 na light refresher. Okay, so this is the ideal situation. So if we have school heads or principals here, kung kaya po natin gawin ang option 1, then that will be best for NRP. For option 3, we have one teacher that handles one class with different reading profiles and different grade levels. Ito naman po yung one of the more challenging class options. Ano? So we have only one teacher that handles all of the reading classes in grades 1 to 3, and therefore, that teacher will also handle different reading profiles. Now for teacher 4, we have a teacher that handles different grade levels, pero pare-pareho naman yung kanyang reading profile na hawak. Halimbawa po, si Teacher A, nagtuturo po siya ng reading sa grades 1, 2, and 3, pero lahat po ng learners na yon, even though they are in grades 1, 2, 3, all of them require full refresher. Okay, so this is one of the easier options. Now, these options are very important. It's very important for us to identify them because if you take a look at the sample routine model, we have provided with you a schedule or a matrix as to how the 120 minutes could be carried out. Okay? So the first 30 minutes, sabay-sabay po yan, regardless if the student is a full refresher, moderate refresher, or light refresher. The first 30 minutes will entail an introduction or the pre-reading activities by the teacher. Okay? In the next 120 minutes, which were further divided into 3 40-minute sessions, makikita po natin for full refresher, and if one teacher is handling all of these reading profiles, the full refresher focuses on oral language activity in the first 40 minutes, while the moderate and light refreshers are left to work on their own using a worksheet. Ayan po, the first 40 minutes, kung nakikita niyo po dyan. Again, the teacher focuses on the full refresher pupils or students through an oral language activity, while the moderate refreshers and the light refreshers work independently on their worksheets. In the second 14-minute session, iiwan naman po ng teacher yung full refresher so that they can work on worksheet 1. Moderate refreshers are also left alone to do worksheet 2. And then the light refreshers are undergoing an oral language activity with the teacher. So dito naman po yung focus ng teacher natin sa ating mga light refresher. And finally, in the last 40 minutes, the full refreshers will work on the second worksheet while the teacher focuses on the moderate refreshers through an oral language activity, while the light refresher pupils work on their second worksheet. And finally, to cap off the session, the last 30 minutes, meron tayong fun activity which will serve as our post reading session. So this suggested class routine model is helpful for classes using options 1, 3, and 4, kung saan meron po tayong isang guro lamang para sa multiple reading profiles. Okay? Okay. Now, for option 2, in which one teacher handles one reading profile, pwede pong isa lang dyan ang maging focus natin. So the first 40 minutes, the teacher undergoes, or the teacher and the students will go through an oral language activity, then they work on worksheets for 80 minutes, and then we cap off the activity with a post-reading activity through something fun. Okay? Ayan po yung pwede natin gawin for the class option 2. But for class options 1, 3, and 4, this is how we suggest that you do differentiated instruction. Pwede pong sabay-sabay sila at isa-isa lang po ang tutok ninyo while learners independently work on their worksheets. Okay, now let's move on to enhancement. Paano po mangyayari yung enhancement? If intervention follows that suggested class routine model, how will enhancement go about? So enhancement is a little bit less structured than the intervention sessions. Okay, kasi dito po, it's just a pleasure reading activity. But we would like to provide you with a little bit of structure para hindi naman po kayo mahirapan when this is implemented in the field. So we start off with preparation and settling in. We prepare the environment and learners for the reading session. That will serve as the pre-reading session. During the reading session, we have a dedicated reading time where learners and even the teachers engage in uninterrupted reading. So right here, the teachers could also sample, ano? Pwede ring si teacher ay may dalang libro, nakikibasa din siya, kasabay ng mga bata. That could also work. Equally important in the enhancement session is the progress monitoring through reflection and sharing. So right here, there is still an element of assessment so that we know the progress and we know how to target instruction by identifying certain issues that may arise during the session. Okay, by doing so, we also provide a meaningful and supportive relationship among our students and to reflect on and share reading experiences. We also aim to ensure continuous monitoring of learners' progress by creating some sort of an individual development plan. Ano? So hindi lang basa ng basa at hindi po walang saysay, nawawala ng saysay ang enhancement session during the NRP on Catch-up Friday. So it's going to be purposive. Finally, we wrap up the session by consolidating information gained from reading. So once again, this is just a suggested routine. You are free to contextualize this based on the reading needs of your learners. What are suggested activities for enhancement? So right here, we have targeted activities for the first key stage, the second key stage, and the third key stage. So mamaya po, no, makikita ninyo how exactly enhancement may be implemented in your respective offices and in your respective schools. So I'm going to provide you with a concrete example of that later on. But right now, here are some suggested activities that you can do depending on the key stage that is targeted by the National Reading Program. Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing for a little while. And I'm going to show you the sample class program that we did. Sandali lang po. Ayan. So I'm assuming that you all can see my screen. Hindi ko na po kayo nakikita sa ngayon. So right here, okay, this is a sample for reading enhancement. Okay. Okay. So once again, we would like to emphasize that in the first month of the NRP during Catch-up Fridays, dear lang po tayo. Drop everything and read, which will provide learners with an opportunity to read any book of their choice. Okay? But for the rest of the reading enhancement sessions, hahayaan pa rin po natin yung mga bata na pumili ng mga libro na gusto nilang basahin during the session. So in the first key stage, here is a sample. Again, I will be providing you with a copy of all of these through our friends in BLD. So in the first key stage, okay, which will last for 3 hours during Friday, preparation and settling in will be done for 30 minutes. So we can begin with relaxation exercises, transition your students to a reading mindset, and then students gather their chosen reading materials and find a comfortable spot for reading. Next is the dedicated reading time. So you will find here that it's only allotted 1 hour of the 3-hour total session. During this dedicated reading time, students engage in independent reading. Okay, so they can sound out words, they can do picture word association, while the teacher monitors and assists as needed. The next 45 minutes is going to be dedicated to monitoring and reflection and sharing. Okay, so right here, the teacher facilitates a group discussion where students can share parts of their reading, discuss themes, and even recommend books, okay? Right here, we encourage our learners to relate the story to their own life experiences. And then this is going to be followed by a word classification game, which will run for 30 minutes. So maaari po tinatanong ninyo, no, how are we going to do this activity when students chose their own reading materials? Iba-iba sila ng binasa. So wag po kayo mag-alala because we've already thought that out. And right here in this activity, okay, ang pwede po natin gawin is first, okay, the teacher can initiate a group discussion where the child shares or the children share interesting words that they encountered during their reading. And then the teacher takes note of these words. And then once the teacher has this word list, they can proceed to the word classification activity. So they can identify kung anong part of speech. Is it a naming word? Is it an action word? A describing word? Etc. Okay, they can also categorize it according to themes. Is it an emotion? Is it an action? Is it related to nature? Etc. Okay. The teacher could also use interactive learning. Okay. So you can make the whole activity interactive. The kids can work together. So through this exercise, we encourage children not just to engage with the book, but also to learn from their peers. And finally, we could also do a reinforcement of learning, okay? Kung saan po we encourage children to be more attentive to the language, we make them use the vocabulary that they learn through the reading process. And finally, okay, after this activity, we wrap up for 15 minutes where we review some points from the material, you encourage students to ask questions and even provide feedback and set the next reading goal. You will find that in this sample reading program, we have also prepared a sample outline for the second key stage, kung paano po mag-run yung 3 hours for grades 4 to 6, and also in the third and fourth key stages. So once again, huwag po kayo mag-alala, we will be providing a copy for all of you. Okay. Now, finally, for reading intervention. So once you decide to have reading intervention during Catch-up Fridays, okay, and we understand that during Catch-up Fridays, some learning areas will have to engage with reading as well. Halimbawa, ako po ay science teacher, pero ang aking klase ang una pong klase during Friday. So inevitably, I will have to do Catch-up Fridays and possibly reading intervention. So for this, we suggest that you make use of what we call CBI or content-based instruction. So right here, we have a sample of a CBI lesson that focuses on science. Okay, so for the first hour, we have the introduction to the theme as well as preparation. So the first 15 minutes is preparation and settling in, and the next 45 minutes is a dedicated reading time. So right here, the students can read any book that they like, which is related to science or related to the theme that is, or the topic that is being discussed by the teacher. In the second hour, you engage with content. So right here, we have an interactive activity. An example is a science discovery activity. So let's say the theme is plants. Students can examine plant parts or seeds and use these descriptive words to talk about them. Halimbawa po, the seed is small, the seed is green, the seed is hard, mga ganon. Next 30 minutes is further reading. So right here, it's a guided reading activity. So we can use a simple science book or a storybook that is related to the theme of science, and then we can read it out loud. You can ask the students to follow along. If they recognize familiar words, you can help them identify it and then participate in a repeat after me for key phrases. And in the last hour, for reinforcement and reflection, in the first 30 minutes, we can have the students engage in a hands-on activity like drawing, creating simple crafts. Okay, so this extends the reading experience to something that they can actually apply. And in the final 30 minutes, we have reflection and sharing. So right here, tatanungin natin yung mga bata, can you tell me something about how plants grow? Or what did we learn about the weather today? You can also, as a teacher, summarize the key topics or key learning points. And you will find that in this sample, we targeted the following reading skills: phonemic awareness, vocabulary development, fluency, comprehension, and connection building. So makikita po ninyo, no, in the process of creating all of these sample reading programs, it's not just a matter of making students read na wala naman pong purpose. It has to be purposive. It still has to be related to what they're actually learning. So the challenge is for us to create these programs, okay, and integrate as many topics as we can, while at the same time building all of these necessary reading skills. Okay? And in order for us to do that, babalik lang po ako sa aking PowerPoint presentation. Okay, sandali lang po. I will share this again. We are down to our last slide for this presentation. Okay, so kung nag-aalala po kayo about learning resources, I would like to assure everyone that the Bureau of Learning Resources, or BLR, is in the process of procuring books worth more than 1.7 billion pesos. But as you know, the procurement process is a very tedious and a very lengthy process. So right now, the ROs and the SDOs may utilize all existing reading resources that are already available. So kung meron na po kayo, and I'm sure that you already have all of these resources in place, especially those who have their own reading initiatives, pwede pa rin po natin gamitin yan as long as they are aligned with the structure and the principles of NRP and Catch-up Fridays. Ayun lang po. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig at sa inyong atensyon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma'am Ayet, for that very comprehensive discussion. So at this point, we'll entertain questions. Pero I believe, no, alis na rin si Miss Ayet. Miss Ayet will not stay na, no? Sige, nawala na si Miss Ayet. Okay? Anyway, sige. Magbasta tayo ng ilang mga... So, again, may I invite Dr. Rose to be on the virtual stage to answer questions. Ma'am, wala akong audio. Hindi, ma'am. Naka-mute ka pa, ma'am. May icon ng mute, oh. Sige po. Ma'am, wala kang audio talaga. Paki-chat nga, may audio ba si Chief? Naka-mute pa rin, sir. O naka-mute ka pa rin, ma'am. Sige. Our dear participants, so yung mga hindi na-address ng mga questions kanina, kindly type in again those questions. But we have 30 minutes to answer those questions.
Yes.
Ayan.
Okay, lipat na naman ako. Kawawa talaga ako. Hindi din ako makapasok kagaya ninyo. Akala nyo lang. Kaya kung saan-saan na lang ako nakikiupo.
Sige. Chief, ang first question natin, yung nasa enclosure 1 daw po, 140 minutes yung allotment for the National Reading Program in the Catch-up Fridays. Pero yung nasa table 1 of enclosure 2, the total number of minutes in the suggested time allotment is 180 minutes. So please shed light on this.
180 talaga siya. 180, di ba ang 183 hours? Oo. Nakita niyo yung presentation ni Ma'am Mayet na may First 30 minutes, second 18 minutes. Nandoon sa kanyang presentation. Anyway, we will be sending that to you. Talagang 3 hours. 3 hours is the decision of the school head. Kung basta half day yan. The first half day will be for reading. The second half day will be for the 3 to include, ano yung isa siyang, yung sa last? So, the 3, values, health, and peace. Depende sa desisyon ninyo kung reading ba sa umaga or reading ba sa hapon, basta half day ang peg. Ngayon, that and the only, like that the things that we need to talk about is that kung ano yung we will not change the class program. Okay? And we will not also change the teacher. That is why lock session/collaborative expertise, because collaborative expertise is really part and parcel of lock session. It is an activity, one of the activities in the learning action cell. So halimbawa, pinakita kanina yung class program, but this will be discussed later this afternoon. Pero what I mean is, kung sino yung nakatoka doon, halimbawa 7:30 to 8:30, English, Rosalina Philip Gaudencio Luis Serrano, tapos break, tapos ano na. So those 3 people will be handling it if the school decides that morning yung reading, so all those 3 people will be handling the reading. Ngayon, so yung present ni Ma'am Ayet, na ito, the first 30 minutes, ito yung gagawin. Yun ang pag-uusapan kung paano nila i-divide yung task to be able to deliver the reading program. Okay? Following the ones presented by Ayet. Ngayon, sa hapon naman, example, Araling Panlipunan is the first, 1 to 2. Ang teacher naman doon si Ma'am Xiang, Rishaan. Tapos 2 to 3. Ang teacher naman doon si Jason. 3 to 4. Ang teacher naman doon si Victor. So yun. So mag-usap sila. Okay, so Ma'am Krish, sa 1 to 2 can talk about values integrated in whatever learning areas ang kanyang hinahawakan. Okay? Pero as I've said earlier, yung kanina, kung hindi pwedeng i-integrate, wag ipilit. Because the integration should appear simplest. And you will see an example of that this afternoon. Ganon po siya, ma'am. Hindi maapektuhan ang class program, ang maapektuhan ang teacher na mag-handle, because even if you are a math teacher, but if you falls under the reading, you have to handle the reading part that is nag-fall doon sa oras mo. And I hope this time everybody realizes that the need to collaborate during learning action cell is a must. Okay? Sige po, another question, Sir G.
Ma'am, balikan ko lang yung question kanina ng Caraga Region. Sabi nila, since Friday daw is intended for the Catch Up Fridays, ang SLAC daw po, anong day daw po i-conduct?
Hindi po dapat prescriptive tayo. Kasi depende po yan sa school. It's the decision of the principal. Basta my dear chiefs, you really have to, and the supervisor, you really have to guide the principal. Hindi tayo pwede maging prescriptive. And besides, ako kasi product ako ng Learning Action Cell when I first taught, talagang prodded yun. Talagang nag-learning action cell kami. Hindi naman siya, for me we can do learning action cell in the afternoon of any day. Diba? And even during recess time or vacant time, we can do learning action cell. Pwede nga niyan sa kantin habang umiinom ng Coke, umiinom ng kape. Pwede yan kung saan-saan. Ang importante, we do it because it's a need. It's a must because we cannot just allow our math teacher to do reading. Kailangan pag-usapan. And besides, if you look at the program presented by Ma'am Ayet, yung 180 na yun, na 3 hours na yun. So the first 30, ito yung gagawin. The next 30, the next 120 pa yun, ito yung gagawin. Kailangan pag-usapan. Okay? So let us do away with learning action cell na nagbebenta ng mga ano-ano at pinag-usapan yung mga ibang tao and the rest of the problems. Again, fellow educators, my dear chiefs, and the supervisors, the role that we have to play as an instructional leader is very important. We need to guide them, and you have to emphasize that during the time that you will orient the principal, because the role of the principal to make the learning action cell bis-a-bis collaborative learning and to make Catch Up Friday work is really in their hands. Okay? Is really in their hands. Hindi pwedeng ganon lang. And we all know that even if we say that all teachers should be reading teachers, not all teachers can be reading teachers unless they are trained, unless we talk about it. Okay? Kasi kahit nga na-train na, bumabalik pa rin sa dati. Paulit-ulit na lang. So we really have to collaborate. Kasi wala na tayong time. There's no time to always go back to the old practice. It is crazy to think that you will be able to make a difference by doing the same old thing again and again. Pareho pa rin yung tinuturo, babe bibobo, tapos gusto ang bata makabasa, sinasabi na nga na hindi pwede yung babe bibobo. Tapos you expect your learners to be able to read? That's craziness. Okay? So yun po, collaborative expertise, may question, via School Learning Action Cell. Anong question? Actually, hindi naman siya.
Hindi naman
Good
the question, ma'am, no? Sige, ma'am, go ahead.
Sige. Ano yon? Ikaw na magbasa, Luis, kasi inire-reserve ko yung aking
sige po,
baka
lang po,
mamaya.
nag-raise lang ng kanyang feedback, ng kanyang comments, si Ma'am Glorian, sabi niya, thank you so much daw po on this seminar kasi this clears our sentiments in dealing with reading issues. Contextualization of approaches is the key based on the assessment results in reading. Specific reading problems need appropriate intervention. Tama naman. Thank you daw po. And then another questions naman from concern from the EPS of Banabo City Division. Sabi niya, the presentation highlighted factors to enhance literacy and numeracy among students. Yet, the Department of Education failed to address challenges faced by the grade 1 and grade 2 teachers in the field, handling 50 or more pupils. During the pandemic, when limited face-to-face classes were implemented, teachers felt that they could effectively teach reading and numeracy if they handled 20 to 25 pupils. If meeting this requirement is crucial for teachers, there is a necessity for an institutional policy to address this issue. So do we have institutional policy to lessen the number of students in the classroom, ma'am?
My dear educators, there are things that are beyond our control. Sabi ko nga, everybody's looking at DepEd, everybody's saying our lawmakers nakakasakit na po ng puso because everybody's saying na ang laki-laki ng budget ng DepEd. But majority, a bigger percentage of that budget that we get from the meager budget that the senators and congressmen are questioning goes to the salary. So magkano lang ang building? Magkano lang ang para sa teachers? Pero other than that, di ba, we also discover during the Senate hearing na merong mga items ng teacher na hindi pa nabibigay for whatever reason. Like, hindi naman superwoman ang ating secretary. Yun ang nakakainis. Hindi naman tayo superman and superwoman that will be able to change. Ang sa atin lang talaga, let us be objective. Okay? Ano ba yung kaya nating gawin sa ating within our means, within our kakayahan? Hindi pwedeng iasa natin lahat kay secretary or kahit kanino din sa mga USEC. We have to do our part because I say this again that itong DepEd na ito, central office at yan lahat ng mga DepEd ninyo, mga classroom ninyo, pangalan lang yan, building lang yan. Ang totoong DepEd is tayo. So we really need to do our part. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, I always remember that. Sabi sa akin ni Secretary Lapus, Rosalina, when you step out of your house, you are Rosalina DepEd. Whatever you say against DepEd, you are saying it against you. And remember that It's your bread and butter. Okay? So let us help.
Correct.
Let us help. Alam natin yan lahat. My God, ako nga 20 lang ang gusto ko. Tapos gusto ko nga ang teacher ite-train sa reading ng isang buwan. Tapos ang laxation, kaya nga gumawa na ng video. Ako ang dami ko ng video. Pero nasasaktan pa rin ako kasi meron pa rin nagklaberya, meron pa rin nagbababy-bubu na sila sabi na hindi yun tama. You know, we really need to because we cannot be. Ang principal, kahit school lang ang tinitingnan mo, hindi ka pwede, hindi naman mangyayari na sa lahat ng oras nandiyan ka sa isang classroom. Pero kailangan ma-ensure mo na bawat grade 1 classroom ay ginagawa ang tama. Bawat grade 2 classroom ginagawa ang tama. Kasi kung ang problema ninyo 5 classroom, ang problema ko 48,000 schools. Kung ilang classroom yan, hindi ko alam. So, ganon. Let us do whatever we can to help DepEd. To help our, yung ano, sana yung ano ko.
Relax lang, ma'am. Tubig.
Huwag na tayong wag na nating ambisyonin. Gusto natin yan, pero hindi pa kaya for now.
Kung paano gawin yun.
Siguro pag nag-retire na ako, 10 na lang ang estudyante ng bawat classroom. So, kahit nasa ibang ano na ako, magiging masaya na ako. Let us do whatever we can in our capacity to help because we are DepEd. We are part of whatever happens because we are DepEd. Ganun na lang, ma'am. And ano, our assistance to you will never end up to this orientation. As always, when you call us and you need some materials, we always send it to you. Let us do what is right. Okay? Let us do what is right. Huwag na kayong huwag na kayong magpa-deceive diyan sa mga nakikita niyong libre, barato. Isipin mo, I was shocked when last Friday, when we launched Catch Up Friday, nung nagsimula na kayo, meron akong nakita sa Facebook, 180 lang activity sheets for Catch Up program. So syempre kung tamad-tamad ka at hindi nakatatak sa utak mo na dapat reading, tamang proseso ng reading, bibilhin mo yon. Kasi hindi ka nagagawa gamitin mo na lang yon. Let us guide our teachers. They need our assistance. They need our help. And that is our role as the chiefs and as the supervisor. To be what? Instructional leaders. Instructional leaders that will help our teachers. Okay?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Another question from Ma'am Charisma. This question concerns the secondary, junior high school, and senior high school daw po. So we would like to ask if it is possible to arrange a 4-hour contact time per learning area to be taught from Monday to Friday so that Fridays will be solely utilized for catch-up activities, that is for intervention and enhancement reading activities in the morning with integration on the other components like values, health, and peace education in the afternoon.
This is what I like in this group kasi nagsasuggest kayo. Hindi puro, ma'am, bigay sa amin, ma'am, bigay sa amin. Kasi actually, kayo ang nakakaalam kung anong problema. And you know, you have the best solution. Ang sa amin lang talaga is standard. It should be let us go to the standards. Yun lang yun ang trabaho namin, to guide you to follow the standards in whatever you do. Hindi pwedeng bara-bara. Hindi pwede. So thank you so much for that suggestion, ma'am. The principal can do that. Okay? Basta, Catch Up Friday is for Catch Up Friday. It is intended to address reading problems, beginning reading, emergent reading, or developmental reading for critical thinking and reasoning skills. Yun. At saka to develop ako hindi ko kasi siya tinatawag na competencies, to develop hindi din siya, ewan ko kung skill ba siya, ipinag-isipan ko pa, basta yung tatlo. You all know how important these 3 are. Values, peace, and health. Okay? Thank you. Congratulations sa suggestions. Okay?
I'd like to invite Ma'am Glorian Ede Rosas to be in a virtual stage para to address her concern. Ma'am Glorian, pwede ka na po mag-share ng iyong audio and your camera.
Ang gagaling kaya ng gagaling kaya ng mga educators sa field. Kailangan lang
Glorian?
talaga they have to follow the standards. Huwag bara-bara, ma'am, ha. Huwag magpa-deceive. May pupunta dyan at magsabi while waiting, ha, at magsabi na ito yung maganda, ay naku, ma'am, mag-isip-isip tayo. Kasi hindi lahat ng pagkain na masarap sa tingin ay nakakabuti sa katawan. In the same way, not all those
Sige
that
po.
are
So, mukhang wala si Ma'am
given.
Gloria, no? Si Ma'am Brigitte
Francia.
Dugasan.
Si Ma'am Francia.
Good morning
Tawag
po.
na pag-isip. Yes
Opo, ma'am.
po,
Good
yes
morning.
po.
Actually, I would like to
Sino po
air
ito,
this
ma'am?
issue. One of the issues po kasi, especially in the early grade levels,
Introduce
those
po, ma'am.
trained teachers.
Ma'am, sino po ito? To be recognized?
Relax,
Si
Ma'am
ma'am.
Ma'am
Glorian.
Glorian.
Ma'am, loud and clear po, ma'am.
Apo, yes.
Okay.
Sige, Ma'am
I'm from
Glorian, go
Siargao
ahead.
Division 4, Caraga Region. From Siargao Division 4, Caraga Region, ma'am. I would just like to air this, one of the issues po kasi, some of the trained teachers in the early grade level were transferred to higher grade levels. So that's one of the problems why we need to retrain teachers again in reading. But if we continue to let those trained teachers handle the particular grade level where they are trained, especially in reading, surely we will achieve our goals that all learners, especially in the grade level, which is the reading readiness, will be achieved. So we should avoid transferring teachers in the early grade level to higher grade level after a year or 2 years of serving on those grade levels. Another is, I would like also to appeal that in the Catch-Up Fridays, especially on reading programs, we need to contextualize our activities. We need to address the specific needs of our learners, especially in reading. I know integrative is actually good. However, when we talk about reading, it's too difficult, especially those readers who belongs on the frustration, as well as readers who are non-reader. We need to have an intervention that will really help them improve their reading. So we need to be strategic. At the same time, we need to contextualize our activities in the simplest way that the readers could really learn and improve their performance or skills in reading. So that would be all, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ma'am Gloria. Developmentally appropriate. Alam na natin yan. Okay. I don't know, ha. We have a memo on that. Panahon pa ng NEP. Sino yung nakasama ko sa NEP? Yung mga hindi i-transfer, they have to serve. Pero ma'am, ewan ko, problema ba ito ng CEO o pwede siyang isolve division level or even school level? Kung ang principal talaga gagamit ng kanyang Republic Act, yung empowering the principal. Kasi wala
Yes,
namang, kaya talaga yan. Kailangan lang talaga, yun yung sinasabi na will. Kaya lang talaga yan, will. Di ba wala naman, DepEd Central Office or anybody, any offices is not preventing you from doing for as long as it is for the good of the school. So, kung hindi, para sa akin, hindi na kailangan ng central office memo para mag-maintain mo yung bata dyan sa kanyang, yung teacher dyan. Kasi doon yun ang expertise na, and you can justify that anytime. Kailangan lang talaga, meron tayong,
Hirapan ako babasa ka, may mga
kasi tama talaga yung mga sinasabi nyo. Sabi ko nga, ang gagalingan ng mga teachers natin, kaya lang napoprostrate ako, yung mga school heads din, napoprostrate lang talaga. Of course, hindi naman lahat. Meron din mga nadideceive pa rin hanggang ngayon. Ay isipin nyo na lang ha, sa 17 years ko, puro lang reading ang pinag-usapan natin. Yung nakasama ko, hanggang ngayon reading pa rin, wala pa rin. Ang dami ng mga nanganak na reading dyan sa field. Iba-iba naman yung ginagawa. So ma'am, salamat talaga. Like all this, the educators here and the different supervisors and chief can learn from the sharings that you are sharing. So thank you so much po. Sir G, share
Sige po,
nyo. Baka meron pang mag-share. Maganda yung mga sharings nila.
Sir, Sir Richard Moral. Sir Richard Moral, Joe Vladi, Carlos Llamas, and Francia Abalos.
Meron na doon?
Anyone? Opo.
Hello,
Dagdagan mo pa
sir.
ng init na tubig.
Yes, yes, sir. You're recognized. Sino po ito? Sir Richard?
From
Sir.
SD. Yes,
Hello.
sir. From SDO Coronadal.
Sige, Sir
Wow.
Richard, go ahead po.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon na ba? Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning pa.
Tatanungin ko lang po kasi nandito po tayo, very crucial, yung activity na ginagawa natin ngayon. Yung finalization ng matatag curriculum session guide. And I'm so worried, Ma'am Villanesa, Sir G, kasi may problema tayo. Kasi si reading and literacy at si language ay pareho ang competencies na naisulat. Ngayon, gusto nating linawin ito masyado sa field. Baka magkakaroon ng redundancy sa implementation. So, the next one, ang tiningnan ko ay yung magiging time ng ating training map. For example, during the matatag training, 1 oras or 2 oras lang ang inilalaan para i-cascade sa ating mga teachers or sa trainers natin. So, sabi ko, hindi ganun sapat yun. I mean, if the issue now of our reading is in terms of the use of language, sana ganun din kalakas yung ating target, beneficial sa tuon natin para mas maging fruitful yung ating gustong ipakita sa field. So, yung concern ko dito, ma'am, is that yung catch-up Fridays natin, isang mahalagang factor sana ito para mas ma-flourish pa yung susunod na matatag curriculum focusing on the language and reading and literacy. So, Ma'am Villanesa, baka po pwede pa nating malobby at ganun ba dapat ka-intuto na magkatulad yung competencies ng dalawang subjects na ito?
I'll see you, sir. I'll see you tomorrow dyan sa Red Hotel. See you tomorrow.
Sige.
We will discuss it there. Hindi lang
Yes,
talaga ako
please.
nakapunta dyan kasi dahil dito sa orientation.
Oo, kasi
Kahapon
yun
we
yung
oriented Luzon.
nire-raise.
Okay,
Sige.
this time we oriented Bismin. So I'll see you tomorrow dyan sa Red Hotel. Okay, we will
Sige,
discuss
thank
about
you.
that in detail.
Yes,
And
yes.
thank you for pouring it out. You know, like ako, syempre, mga taga Mindanao. Syempre, no, I know how good you are and how committed you are. Okay? Kaya nga lang,
Thank you,
pag
ma'am.
malaki ang division mo, kailangan alam mo ang bawat school.
Correct.
Pagdating sa school, dapat alam mo naman ang bawat classroom. Kaya yon. Pero sir, division lang yon. So ako, good luck na lang sa akin. Kasi I have 36,000 elementary schools, tapos 200, basta 200. Kung meron tayong 236 K-3 teachers, yun ang classroom ng K-3 teachers na dapat masilip para we will have the standardized delivery of reading and literacy and of course language component. Sige sir, see you
Sige,
tomorrow.
thank you. See you, ma'am. Sir G,
See you,
thank
Sir Morales po. Sige po, last 2 participant na lang po tayo. May we hear from Sir
Mainit pa.
Carlos?
Gusto ko mainit pa.
Sir Carlos Llamas?
Wala mainit yan.
Good morning. Mayong
Yes,
udto
good morning,
sa-
sir. Opo.
Yes, mayong udto sa-
Yes! CDO.
Ayun po, mayong udto. On the onset, I would like to commend the entire body for having this kind of activity for us to really be guided as to what we're going to do, especially for the Catch-Up Fridays, knowing na it's not new, pero we're doing these things. But one good thing is that we're supported right now, especially on the recovery of reading. So we are legally supported na. We are not doing
Agree.
a kawat oras to make sure na there's reading, teaching of reading in their class. Ma'am, but just a suggestion, ma'am, since I heard it earlier that you bluntly say, now we are not going to change our class program. In one way or another, yes, perhaps we agree because we'll be doing an integrative teaching for that. But could we also do, ma'am, na hindi lang siya siguro bluntly na hindi talaga pwedeng mag-change, but just specifically for Friday lang, knowing that ESP is basically most of the schools are assigning ESP in the first hour. And then on the memorandum, we have the first half and the second half, where the first half we will do the NRP, and then the second half would be the composition of values education, health, homeroom guidance, and the other one I just can't remember it. So would it be okay, ma'am, if that only for Friday, only the languages like English, Filipino, mother tongue, kasi existing pa naman yung mother tongue, we'll have it in the morning so that they can do, it would be easy for them to really come up with the strategy and task assignment in teaching reading or NRP, and also for the ASP, health, MAPE, and whatever component AP, pak siguro po ma'am, they'll be doing that in the afternoon para seamless. Tapos in terms of expertise ma'am, they already have that. Para kasi ma'am, ang nangyayari kasi there are still English teachers assigned in the afternoon. So if ever sila yung nakatoka to teach ASP, mas sound siguro if they can teach reading and then yung ESP sa umaga, they could be assigned in the afternoon just for Friday, ma'am. Not in the entire week, just for Friday. If we can have that. Kasi ma'am, doon ako nagagaling sa statement nyo kanina na do not change the class program. Baka pwede kahit Friday lang, ma'am. We can do a restructuring of our school teachers para po seamless yung expertise, yung knowledge, and also in our delivery of the catch-up program, ma'am. Though suggestion lang yan, ma'am, ha? It's not actually...
No, Sir Carlos. Sir Carlos, actually, that's our idea. Pero we don't want to distort. Kasi pag nasa memo yan, at sinunod talaga nila yan, yung iba, like nasa implementation yan. So if in your division and in your district, you agree to have like that because that's a bright idea. Di ba? Kasi you want to make a difference. Then so be it. Hindi yan kailangan ng national memo. Kaya nga sabi ko, kayo yun. Ang importante lang, yung mga teachers natin, they will understand.